Maoism, third worldism. What is the general idea? Basically, it goes like this. I'm sure people have noticed that there hasn't been any revolutionary potential in the first world since the 1930s. I think that's pretty obvious. A lot of people like to try to claim that Baltimore is somehow a symbol of that, which is absolutely ridiculous. That was just a riot. A well-justified riot about a real injustice being carried out, but you can't call it revolutionary potential. It was just rioting and looting, not revolutionary action based on any kind of class consciousness, just anger. So no, that actually doesn't count. Because I've seen a lot of people running around with flags saying People's Republic of Baltimore. No, that's not a revolution. It doesn't have any revolutionary potential. I digress. There hasn't been any significant force for change since the 1930s. People can talk about the 1960s all they wish, but there wasn't revolutionary potential. There was a big spirit going on, a civil rights spirit, but it wasn't revolution. That's completely different from hippie liberal activism. Yes, real problems were being fought, but that does not equate revolution nor revolutionary potential. It doesn't take a genius to notice that. Even in my own Canada, which I would actually argue there has never been any revolutionary potential. Ever. There's never been a moment where there was an objectively revolutionary situation where people could actually step up and organize a revolution. It hasn't happened. In fact, even Engels himself said that there basically wasn't any revolutionary potential in England in the 1800s. And we can't imagine that there are better conditions for revolution today than there were in 1800s. That's just absolute nonsense. So our theory stands from the point that first world people benefit from the super exploitation of imperialism. Basically, it stands that our really, really high wages, which they are in global terms, they are very high, is paid for by the super exploitation of the third world. Now, I could give you a mathematical chart to prove this. That information is there. You can get it. It's not a coincidence that we started getting really, really high wages when imperialism was taking off. That's not a coincidence. Just like the New Deal. The New Deal was never intended to be some kind of strike against the bosses. It was a concession. It was a concession to avoid possibly a revolutionary situation. We have really high wages because of the exploitation that is carried out on the third world. That bumps our living standard up high enough so that we lack a revolutionary potential. In other words, we have more than our chains to lose. That's the main point. First world people have lost their revolutionary potential. The proletariat, and I put that in quotation marks because I don't believe that it is a proletariat, because proletariats are supposed to be the revolutionary class. It should not be surprising that we're not revolutionary. We have a lot more than our chains to lose, and that should be really, really obvious. No one expects a $60,000 a year construction worker to give up his job, his house, both his cars, his pension to pick up a rifle and fight the government. Expecting that or thinking that's going to happen is absolute nonsense. That's not going to happen. There's a reason why it has always been the more exploited, the more oppressed who have stood up for revolution. Marx said it would come from the advanced sections, the industrial working class of the advanced nations. Well, that's kind of not what happened. Well, I mean, the industrialized, advanced section of the industrialized countries did kind of go to Nazi Germany, which is kind of the opposite. But suffice to say, revolution has come from the more disposed, from the more oppressed, the most exploited. China, Cuba, come on, even Russia at the time was incredibly backward by European standards. We stand by the premise that imperialism is kept in place because first world people won't do anything to resist. Protesting does not count. Writing petitions do not count. Writing blog posts don't count as revolutionary action. Nothing they do actually challenges anything. Occupy Wall Street does not count as actually really having done anything. It challenged nothing. A bunch of people who were angry that they lost their middle class status. Got angry and yelled at Wall Street for a while, and nothing materialized out of that. It was a meaningless gesture because that's not what revolution is. Despite all the efforts by Bob Avakian's RCP to try to turn that into a revolutionary force, it failed absolutely miserably because it was a liberal movement who aren't going to do anything. Now, when we consider that first world people are kept unrevolutionary, are given material conditions that don't support revolution, in fact, retard the whole process off the backs of the suffering of third world people, now you start to see where a lot of the moral outrage is. That is the general idea of Maoism third worldism. There isn't a first world proletariat anymore. It is the more exploited, the more oppressed people of the world who are the ones that are actually suffering. Thus, we should expect revolution to come from them.